I'm still telling people about Flash Talks that I saw a few years ago and was very moved by, so I'm honored to be here. Before starting, I'd like to thank my wonderful co-author, Laura Morgan Roberts. From the Hilton Hospitality Group to Google to the Ford Motor Company, more and more companies are embracing the idea that having a diverse workforce is crucial for their bottom line, also known as the business case for diversity. Cultural minorities from lower status groups, such as women and racial minorities, are believed to bring diverse perspectives to their organizations, as well as insight into minority consumers. Through our research, which is forthcoming in organization science, we came to see that the ability of a company to capitalize on the promised benefits of diversity is ultimately in the hands of minority employees. It is their choice to draw or not to draw on their identity-based strengths. We conducted a qualitative study of 47 racial minority journalists, asking how individuals perceive and act upon any advantages associated with their minority identity. And what emerged was a story of resourcefulness. The journalists described 4 different ways in which they drew upon identity resources, potentially valuable features associated with a minority identity, to help themselves progress toward work-related goals. For example, one African-American journalist described writing articles about African Americans in public housing in which he challenged common assumptions. It would have been easy for him to fall back on stereotypes of people drinking, gambling, and, quote, the mom with the kid on her hip and a cigarette hanging out of her mouth, he said. But instead, he took the risk of writing unconventional stories about people looking to do better, people who needed a, quote, hand up instead of a hand out, success stories, kids, and the problems within public housing. In doing so, he provided a richer and more complete description of the truth about public housing. But mobilizing identity, rather than being only beneficial, was associated with tensions or sources of stress and strain. For example, those who challenge stereotypes face the risk of being perceived or branded as a disruptive minority or an activist. One Asian American journalist faced this tension in challenging the assumption that Asian Americans know everything about Asia. Her editors were blindly assigning her to do every story related to Asia. She did them at first, but then she said to her editor, think about why you're asking me to do this. Is it because I have special expertise in US-Taiwan relations? I don't think so. The story had nothing to do with her coverage area, her language skills, or her South Asian heritage. And she didn't feel qualified or motivated to do the story. Upon being challenged, her editor looked very uncomfortable and finally said, you don't have to do this story. In sum, identity mobilization was not just a story of resourcefulness. It was also a story of agency and courage. The courage to recognize and draw upon differences, to mobilize in the face of tensions, and to enact agency by not mobilizing in the face of ill-suited pressure from others. Moving forward, while our study focused on racial identity, the journalists also described mobilizing or not mobilizing other minority identities. One described wanting to mobilize her female identity to write stories about gender, but decided not to because she felt her male editor didn't value and would be threatened by stories about women. Another journalist mobilized her multiple identities as an African-American woman and mother to build trust with a source, an African-American mother whose child was killed in a hate crime. We hope that other scholars will join us, perhaps mobilizing their own identities as we keep exploring what it means to leverage minority identities at work. Thank you.